If you think AI costs are just the monthly subscription fees, you're in for a rude awakening. A lot of AI companies will show you their monthly subscription fees in big bold letters, $10 a month, $20 a month, $30 a month. But that's not the whole story. And it's not like these AI companies are trying to trick you. They're very transparent with their pricing. It's just a lot of business owners don't really understand the full total cost of implementing AI into their business. That $10 or $20 a month is not an accurate representation of what it will cost to introduce AI into your business. And these additional costs could very easily double, triple, quadruple your overall monthly budget if you're not careful. Hi, I'm Chase with NeuroWiz, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down all of the hidden costs to implementing AI into your business. We'll be talking about token overages, implementation cost, training costs, and productivity dips that your business could experience if you utilize AI in your workflows. Because here's the truth, AI can 100% transform your organization, but you also need to make sure you have all the facts up front before you take the leap. So enough babbling, let's dive into the hidden costs of AI usage. Let's start with why the monthly subscription costs are very misleading. When you look at ChatGPT Plus for $20 a month or Claude Pro for $20 a month, you might think to yourself, oh, this is a pretty cheap tool. And at face value, it is. But here's what most people miss. These are just the consumer plans, and they're pretty limited on their applications inside of your business. These consumer plans typically give you a number of responses that you can utilize within a given set of hours or a set of days, and it's all text generative and it lives inside of that platform itself. So it's not necessarily integrated just yet into your ecosystem. Now, if you're a heavy generative AI user and you just utilize a ChatGPT or Claude, Grok, whatever you're using platforms, and you live inside of there, those limitations really aren't going to hit you all that much unless you're just absolutely obsessed with the platforms, like me. But if you're wanting to utilize these platforms inside of existing workflows, this is where you're going to need an API implementation. Now, if you don't know what an API is, just think of it as a bridge between one tool to another tool. That's it. And when it comes to API implementation, the costs change drastically. Suddenly, that no-brainer $20 subscription turns into a couple of hundreds, if not a couple thousands of dollars a month. And this can be really shocking to a business owner if they don't already know that this is going to happen ahead of time. Let's do a bit of a mathematical example here. A business using ChatGPT's API for customer service might process 10,000 customer inquiries per month. Each inquiry might use 500 tokens for the question and 800 tokens for the response. And if you don't know what a token is essentially just a processed word within the ecosystem. So if you put the word the, or you put a symbol, those would each be a token. So looking back at the 500 tokens for the question and 800 tokens for the response, that's 1,300 tokens per interaction or 13 million tokens monthly, looking at that 10,000 customer inquiries per month. ChatGPT's current token pricing at the time of filming this video is $1.25 per million tokens of input and $10 per million tokens of output. That's roughly $85 per month just for the AI processing, which is 4 times more than the consumer subscription cost. It's not a huge amount, but it's an added cost nonetheless. But that's just the beginning, because the token cost is very easily calculable. The other costs that are associated with AI implementation are a little less so. So now we're going to look at integration and development costs. And this is where most businesses get a little tripped up, because it's not just a matter of like, oh, let's just use AI. Well, someone has to actually plug the AI into your existing infrastructure, your email, your document management system, your CRM, anything that you use to function as a business. You need someone that can actually make those connections. Now, there are tools that exist that have native connections between some of the tools that you use in a lot of these AI models, but sometimes you're going to need a custom integration, which costs even more. If you feel like you're technically savvy, you might be able to do a lot of this on your own. But if you're not, or it starts to get a little over your head, this is where a lot of developmental costs can really start to stack up. You're going to need to have an understanding of not just what an API is, but also what a webhook is, maybe understand what a cron job is, and then understand the lines of code within a JSON or an HTML environment that actually makes everything work together. Most businesses realize pretty quickly they're a little over their head if they're not technically savvy, so they end up hiring a developer or an agency to develop all these custom integrations for them. And these integrations can range anywhere from just a couple $1,000 to to 10,000 plus. But that's all depending on the complexity. If it's something simple, it's cheaper. If it's something way more complex, yeah, you're going to be shelling out some money. For example, if you wanted a customer service agent to be able to handle inquiries, update your CRM, have access to your database, and send follow-up emails, yeah, I mean, that could be an integration anywhere between $5,000 to $25,000. Easy. And that's all before you've processed one customer inquiry. Not only did you need to spend money to build the system, but now you need to spend money to keep up the system. AI isn't perfect and it needs constant refinement. It might have an error one day, which then you need to account for the next day. So you need to have somebody on staff, whether it's within your own company or an outside agency, to make sure it's troubleshooting and making sure that the AI is actually working properly, which takes time and a lot of effort. And this ongoing work could be, maybe a couple $100 a month or maybe a couple $1,000 a month, depending on the complexity and the integration level of the AI in your business. If you're looking at some pretty simple integrations, you can look at platforms like Zapier or Make, which are pretty cheap on like the subscription side. But again, when you're looking at softwares, you need to look at the actual complexity and the depth of what you actually need to do, in which case costs can start to rise. There's also a hidden cost of time when it comes to data preparation. Not a lot of businesses have their data prepared in a way to where the AI is easily able to digest it and understand it. Just because you have data doesn't mean it's optimal. Think about it this way with a pizza. You've got the dough, you've got the sauce, you've got the cheese, you put it all together, but if you don't put it in the oven, it's not really a pizza, and I wouldn't eat it if I were you. Same thing goes with data with AI. Just because you have the data doesn't necessarily mean that the AI can digest it properly. Just like you probably shouldn't try to digest raw dough and sauce and uncooked cheese. Yeah, I wouldn't do that if I were you. So that's just the implementation and the development side. Now comes something even more time consuming and time costly, which is the training and productivity cost of implementing AI. This is something that typically happens over and over and over again in businesses, and yet they're surprised by it every single time. Whenever you're implementing a new tool or a new person or a new system into your business, there is going to be a period of time where your company will take a productivity hit. Your team needs to take the time to learn how to utilize the AI effectively, and time is not free. Effective AI prompting in itself is a skill that your team needs to understand. Just going all willy-nilly and trying to interact with whatever you've got in your head with the AI right out the gates isn't a good use of your time and is a massive hit to your productivity, because now you're taking a bunch of time to actually just try to correct the mistakes that you made from the beginning that you would not have made if you understood how to prompt correctly. And that's just prompt engineering. That's not even considering how to interact with it when it's existing within current workflows. Between learning prompt engineering, understanding each AI model's strengths and limitations, and developing workflows that actually improve your team's productivity rather than creating more work, yeah, your team's got their work cut out for them. This learning curve is a lot steeper than most people expect. They think they've seen a couple YouTube videos, like this one, online, and they think that they're a total master of AI implementation. But to be safe and to be responsible as a business owner, I would expect somewhere between a 10 to 30% dip in productivity for a period of time. Now, that actual productivity dip and the period of time is all going to be dependent on how fast you can implement the AI, how quickly you can train your team, what business you operate, and what industry that you're in, as well as how tech savvy you and your team already are. Now, don't worry, this isn't like a forever productivity dip. It's going to be a small dip to a large increase later down the line, but you do have to accept there will be a dip in the beginning. There's also the factor of ongoing training when it comes to utilizing these different tools. Now, I wouldn't say your entire team needs to understand all of the tools fully. They just need to understand the tools that are within their ecosystem to the degree in which they need to use them. But even then, there's still training time that goes into this. So I would attribute maybe a couple hours a month just for your team to be able to understand the different AI models and their strengths and weaknesses, because they are constantly updating. I mean, we're getting a new model pretty much every quarter at this point. And of course, we're human. We're gonna make mistakes. So there does need to be a factoring of the fact that there will be mistakes in the implementation phase, in the learning phase, in the ongoing usage phase as well. Now on to the next hidden cost, which is infrastructure and security. A lot of businesses may not realize at the beginning that you might need an infrastructure upgrade to be able to introduce AI into your ecosystem. If you're operating a CRM out of Google Sheets, I'm sorry, that's just not enough. You're gonna need to get something real and legitimate. You'll also have data storage costs. So if you're doing everything within a filing cabinet, you're gonna have to sign up for a Dropbox or a Google Drive or something, which also comes with an added cost on top of that. It's pretty small, so I wouldn't get too hung up on it. But if you're creating gigabytes upon gigabytes upon gigabytes of data within just conversations alone, you're gonna need to make sure that you have accounted for some serious data storage. Security also becomes more complex and expensive when AI is involved. You're now sending potentially sensitive business data to a third-party service. So you are going to have to make sure that you have some proper security protocols in place. Many businesses need to upgrade their data encryption, implement new access controls, and establish audit trails for AI usage. Compliance costs can be pretty substantial, especially if you're in a regulated industry where you need to meet HIPAA requirements, SOC 2 requirements, anything like that. If you are in one of these regulated fields, you may have to consult with, I know everybody's favorite, a legal advisory firm to make sure that your AI is in compliance with whatever processes you have to follow. Now, these compliance costs could add up a couple $1,000 up front, or potentially tens of thousands of dollars over the long run if you're working in more of an enterprise situation with very sensitive data. You're also going to have to make sure you have any sort of backup systems involved as well, because just because AI is super amazing at what it can do, it's also a tool, and tools can break. So if your AI does break, where it just doesn't function or produces bad responses, you're going to have something to be able to turn it off and go back to something that's a little bit more manual. Implementing these systems, depending on the size of your company, could be anywhere from a couple $100, maybe even free if you just have a small team, up to thousands of dollars if you have a larger team. And because AI is internet based, you're going to have to make sure that you have very stable internet connection within your ecosystem, which is why cloud systems are fantastic, because they can continue running even when your internet's down. But it is also worth noting that the actual companies that provide the AI models themselves could also experience outages, so you still need to have something in place if that outage happens. There's also the hidden usage and scaling costs that are associated with AI. Now, for most small businesses, I wouldn't really worry about this one too much, but if you are running more of a medium-sized business or a large-scale enterprise, you're going to need to have some quality control based on just the volume of AI usage you're going to have, because the more you start to rely on it, the more you're going to use it, and the more that you use it, the more those prices go up. And the more that those prices go up and the more that the usage you have, the more chances there are for errors, which means you're now going to have systems in place for quality control and risk mitigation, which is another cost. Now, these costs are probably already integrated in your ecosystems already because of the fact that you're scaling, and that's part of the growing pains of scaling, but now you have to associate that with AI usage in your business as well. Something that may have cost a couple $100 to run per month in the beginning, over time, as you scale and scale and scale and more usage being applied, could easily turn into thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars a month based on the utilization. So AI is great in helping you to scale, but you also do have to factor in there are growing pains and costs to that scale and to the quality assurance and risk mitigation to make sure that you're not absolutely just imploding from the usage of AI. So with all that said, let's take a real, honest look at the total cost of ownership when it comes to using AI in your business. The actual amounts are going to vary depending on the size of your company, in which industry you're in, how highly regulated it is, or how free you are to kind of just do what you want. So we're really going to be looking over the main sections here. So at the start, you have your basic subscription fee, which if I haven't already shown you so far, is pretty negligible in the long run. Then you have the actual API calls and the token costs, which could easily scale up your usage, but it's very calculable depending on the inputs and outputs that you utilize. The real costs that you're going to have to calculate on your own are going to be integration and development costs, because while some companies, agencies, and developers may have strict costs on what it takes to build the integrations that you want, you still need to factor those in. It could be a couple $100, could be a couple $1,000, or it could be tens of thousands of dollars. We also need to look at the training and productivity costs. It's not just a matter of implementing AI into your business and everything's hunky-dory. You have to make sure that everybody's on board, everybody knows what they're doing, and they have ongoing education to stay in the know. You also have your infrastructure and security costs. So if you're working in an outdated system, there is likely going to be an investment that needs to be made to upgrade the system so that AI can seamlessly plug itself in, as well as making sure you're taking the right security and compliance measures to make sure that your data is safe and secure and you don't run any risk of being out of compliance. And lastly, you have the hidden usage and scaling costs, which is just simple math and common sense, but you don't realize it until you're in the thick of it. The more you use it, the more it's going to cost. And the more that you use it, the more risk mitigation and quality control you're going to have, which is also an additional cost. So while something seemed innocent at just $20 a month to start, is easily now eating up tens of thousands of dollars a month if you haven't already budgeted for this or allocated for this potential scenario. Now, all of this information may scare you away from AI, and I totally understand that. But when it comes to AI usage, we do have to be realistic in what it actually takes to plug it into your business. Now, if you're a smaller business, you don't have to worry too much about it being like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs. That's more for like enterprise models, so don't worry. But if you are a larger company, it is a significant cost to consider. The hidden costs of AI implementation don't have to derail your plans of using it, but it's always a good idea to just have a firm understanding of what it actually costs to utilize this tool. Remember, AI can be an invaluable tool that you utilize in your business, but you do have to consider all the different hidden costs, which aren't really hidden. It's just, we don't really think about them all that much. Incorporate those costs into a realistic budget. Now you're ready to utilize AI in your business. If you want help understanding whether or not you should be using AI in your business, you can book a call with our team in the link below for a free AI needs assessment. On this call, we go over your current AI and automation utilization. We go over the current bottlenecks in your business, keeping you from growing or scaling. And then we help to create custom tailored solutions to help you and your business. Again, you can click the link in the description below to book a call with one of our team members, or you can scan the QR code right here. Now that you understand the total cost of ownership when it comes to using AI in your business, you might be wondering now, okay, cool, I know what it costs, but which tools do I use? I'm not entirely sure. Well, luckily, we filmed a video answering that specific question, going over some of the top AI models and tools in the marketplace today, and which ones are best for which use cases in your business. And if you want to watch that video, all you need to do is click right here. AI can provide an incredible ROI into your business, but only if you have a firm understanding of what it truly costs to implement in the first place. Now you have that understanding, so go make it happen. I'm Chase with NeuroWiz, and I'll see you next time.